A grand event took place in Beijing that has already been called a turning point in modern geopolitics. A military parade marking the 80th anniversary of China's victory in the Second World War. The scale of the spectacle exceeded all expectations. The central square of the capital was transformed into a gigantic stage on which China showcased not only its military might, but also a new world order taking shape before our very eyes. The parade was attended by leaders of dozens of countries, including Russia, North Korea, India, and many other BRICS participants. Cameras from leading global television networks captured every step of the marching columns, every movement of the military hardware, every statement made by officials. But behind the impressive visuals was a far more serious message. China was demonstrating to the world that it now has an alliance capable of challenging the United States of America. Analysts at the Financial Times note that such a large-scale coalition, bringing together the biggest states of Eurasia, is for the first time forming a bloc comparable to the West in terms of both economy and population. The Guardian writes that what is particularly troubling for Washington is the rapprochement between China and India. Donald Trump's policy of imposing tariffs on Indian goods unexpectedly pushed Delhi toward a strategic pivot to the east. India, tired of pressure and humiliation, chose to seek partnership with China and Russia, a major strategic miscalculation by the Trump administration. For it is precisely India, with its 1.5 billion people and rapidly growing economy, that turns the alliance into a colossal force the United States cannot ignore. Foreign Policy magazine bluntly states that the union of China, Russia, and India is a nightmare scenario for America, because this triumvirate destroys the very idea of military and economic parity. One-on-one, the US military remains the strongest in the world. No one disputes that. But against an alliance uniting 3 nuclear powers and dozens of states with a combined mobilization base, numbering in the billions, even American power begins to look insufficient. The parade in Beijing became a symbol of this new balance. Hundreds of the latest 5th-generation Chinese fighter jets roared over the square. Columns of hypersonic missile systems marched alongside thousands of soldiers, while Chinese state television commentators emphasized that this was only a fraction of what lies behind the walls of China's military factories. Insiders cited by Reuters claim that China is already producing millions of combat drones annually and is building entire factory lines capable, in the event of conflict, of turning out tens of thousands of drones each month. Meanwhile, the US military is facing a crisis, from manpower shortages to outdated equipment in several units. The Washington Post, citing Pentagon officers, reports that the US is effectively losing the drone race. Chinese drones are cheaper, more numerous, and have already proven their effectiveness in local conflicts, supplied both to Beijing's allies and to global markets. And while the US has always relied on quality and high-precision weapon systems, China has chosen another path: quantity. They can overwhelm us with sheer numbers, admitted an unnamed Pentagon source. American generals understand that in a confrontation with China alone, they may be able to maintain the initiative, but against an alliance that includes Russia and India, that balance collapses. Russia provides experience, a nuclear shield, and energy resources. India contributes manpower and industrial capacity. China brings technology and manufacturing power. This is not just an alliance, it is a new pole of power, one that for the first time in decades can truly threaten American leadership. And that is why the parade, seemingly symbolic, was in fact an act of geopolitical demonstration. In its coverage, CNN underlined that the 80th anniversary parade was designed not to highlight the past, but to showcase the future. China placed emphasis on drone swarms, unmanned tanks, and missile systems with artificial intelligence. None of these systems have yet been seen in combat, but experts are convinced that their mass production is already established. Meanwhile, according to a Rand Corporation report, the US military is increasingly struggling with rearmament. New programs are stalling, budgets are being redirected, and political will is focused on tariffs and trade wars rather than systematic military development. This is the core threat to Washington. While Trump continues to pressure allies by imposing tariffs and breaking trade ties, China is building its own alliance and preparing a military fist capable of reshaping the world map. The question is no longer whether America can win a new Cold War, but whether it can rally the West around itself before it is too late. Authoritative sources in Brussels, cited by Politico, report that Europe is deeply concerned, but the European Union's divisions prevent a unified strategy. Germany fears losing exports to China, France plays a double game, and Italy and Spain are unwilling to engage in open confrontation. All of this plays into Beijing's hands. Thus, the parade in Beijing was not simply a celebratory event. It was a deliberate signal aimed at the United States. China showed that it is ready to lead a new bloc, that Russia and India stand by its side, and that dozens of countries from Africa, Latin America, and Asia are rallying under these banners. And now America, long accustomed to its role as global hegemon, for the first time in decades feels that its position has not merely been shaken, it may collapse entirely. If Trump continues to humiliate allies with tariffs instead of uniting them against a common adversary, the end of American leadership will only be a matter of time. This is the central takeaway of the parade in China, which, as experts note, will go down in history as the starting point of a new era in world politics. According to Japan's Nikkei Asia, closed-door talks followed the parade between delegations from China, Russia, India, and North Korea. They discussed not only military cooperation, but also a new financial settlement system independent of the dollar. If launched, this project would represent the largest alternative in history to the American financial system, dealing a blow to the dollar's role as the world's reserve currency. The Wall Street Journal, citing banking sources, reports that China is prepared to offer partners the digital yuan as the system's foundation, while Russia and India are already testing pilot schemes for mutual settlements. This is not merely economics. It is a weapon, a financial weapon that could dismantle the established global order. American experts admit with alarm that the loss of the dollar's monopoly would strike the United States harder than any military defeat. At the same time, divisions inside the U.S. are deepening. Some Democratic congressmen openly accuse Trump of isolating America through his tariff policy and pushing India into China's embrace. Fox News quotes former White House advisors, warning that a few more years of this strategy will leave the U.S. without allies even in Asia, a strategic catastrophe. Meanwhile, China continues to demonstrate that its military technology is no longer lagging behind America's. Over Beijing during the parade, new generation strategic stealth bombers appeared, capable of carrying nuclear weapons and operating in coordination with orbital satellites, according to the Xinhua agency. Western analysts note that China chose to reveal them publicly precisely when the world's attention was on Beijing, to make clear that technological parity has already arrived. Even the respected Jane's Defense Weekly, traditionally cautious in its assessments, has been forced to admit China's defense industry now produces more modern weaponry than the United States, and this is changing the very logic of global security. All of this is provoking genuine panic in Washington. According to Bloomberg, emergency meetings were held at the Pentagon to discuss a new strategy for countering the China-Russia-India alliance. But even there, officials admit that for the first time in history, the U.S. military faces an adversary that not only matches it, but in many respects surpasses it in resources. And the parade in Beijing became a visual metaphor for this new balance of power. The world saw that the era of America's unipolar dominance is coming to an end.